Blitz is defined as a sudden, savage attack. It is indeed all this. The effect is sure. The premise is simple. It's a basic, primal confrontation, man to man. No excuses are offered, none accepted.
Welcome to the latest edition of Longhorn Blitz with horns247.com.
Looks like a radio station.
Now, here are your hosts, lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers,
Pure athlete, yeah.
I transcend race, hombre.
Matt Butler,
I don't talk, man. I back it up.
And we are chock full of that.
Damn right.
and Jeff Howe.
It's still real to me, damn it.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
If you're gonna blitz, come strong, but don't come at all.
I'll tell you who came strong with it over the weekend. Texas came strong with it. Now, Rod, I did catch the Rodcast today, which you can hear on 104.9 The Horn every day from 1 to 3.
Shameless plug.
That you went by the old Chris Rock line. You don't get credit for things you're supposed to do. If you're Texas, you're supposed to beat San Jose
Supposed to
State.
be San Jose State, man. That didn't titillate me.
But you're not necessarily supposed to win 56-0 and get you that goose egg.
Shutouts are rare, man. Shutout, and I played for really good defenses, and you know we dominated some teams and still weren't able to get shutouts all the time. So yeah, I will admit that is something extraordinary. I will give Tyler Lando and the defense credit for that. Maybe the jumping off point for confidence for this group.
There are some fascinating angles, numbers, storylines, all of the above we're going to get into, not necessarily on the San Jose State win, as we put that to bed, but we are looking ahead this Saturday, the Coliseum, Texas against fourth-ranked USC. I'm feeling strangely good, Rod, that Texas can compete based on what we talked about.
Ooh.
Not that Texas can win, but that Texas will compete based on what we talked about right before we went on air.
What's your definition of compete, though?
Cover the spread.
What is the spread right now? 2 touchdowns?
It went past that. It's around 17 and a
17.
half.
It was at 15.
I think this could be a 10-point game or less.
That'd be very impressive.
That would be considering what I've seen. I would, and I hate to say the standards are that low now for us, but I would be impressed if Texas keeping it within 10 points of the
Well, I mean, how
you
you
guys
said,
just channel my inner Mac Brown going with it. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
that's your
man.
inner Brian McNamee. He was the one, the guy going against Roger Clemens. It is what it is. But when you talk about gaining confidence, a good way to look at the San Jose State game is point spread. You know, it went from 26 to 28. When you can double a point spread and you win by 56, that's a full standard deviation away. That's impressive. So, like you were saying, Jeff, if you were able to say when you're a 17-point underdog, keep it single digits, that's pretty good because you're more than a touchdown better than what the best Vegas mathematicians are putting out there.
We'll get to all that as the show goes on. I am Jeff Howe. This is Longhorn Blitz with horns247.com. Let me bring in the rest of the team. He is the master of the soundboard, the drop machine extraordinaire, not the man behind the glass, but the man to my right now in the new studios at the Austin Radio Network. We're on the horn side of the building, overlooking 360 and the city of Austin from our new studios. Matt Butler.
Yes,
up,
sir.
Matt?
I actually just uploaded the 2006 Rose Bowl Revisited. It was your
glad you
idea.
mentioned that.
Yeah, it's good on the iTunes feed right now or any other podcast subscriber. It's just popped up in your feed, so you'll get it before you get this show. But Jeff did a good job of queuing it up and revisiting
Glad you brought both of those things up, Matt. So, yes, on the feeds this week, the iTunes feed, we decided to re-rack our conversation we had 2 years ago now with Casey Studdard and Tim Crowder. We did a 10-year retrospective of the national championship season, but we pulled out about the 45 minutes we spent on the national championship game leading up to the game, pre-game, before, and then after the game, their thoughts on what went down that memorable night in Pasadena, so you can get that. And, yes, we do have an iTunes feed now. We got that back up again thanks to Matt. So, Matt, you want to explain to everybody what we're doing on iTunes?
Yeah,
now?
just type in Longhorn Blitz. Boom, you're good. Podcast apps, iTunes. But, yeah, we're just routing it through our SoundCloud page. So I've been sort of debating, and I brought it up to you, but I say the listeners should just decide if they want. But we have had like 50 awesome interviews with former players, everybody from B.J. Johnson to Earl Thomas, hilarious stuff to really insightful stuff. and I didn't want to bombard everybody's, their subscription when they subscribe to you. You don't want to have like 50 things pop up. But I have the capability, so if y'all think it's a good idea, or if the listeners think it's a good idea, or like, hey, we want to hear this one, I can make them all available for everybody, or you can just know that you can go to our SoundCloud page and pick them up. But now you just type in Longhorn Blitz and find us.
I think we might do it maybe once a week, drop a bonus
Yes, a new interview in there.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Nice.
then y'all send us requests. Just tweet them to us, hashtag it Longhorn Blitz, and then Jeff, Rod, and I will see it, and we'll be able to go
Like
and
if
put
we
in.
can hear Lamar Houston again when we played some Will Muschamp audio for him.
Yep.
I think that's something everybody needs to.
Man, I
Yeah,
can
that
do
was
that.
some
I can
awesome-
listen to me some Muschamp all day, every day.
How about our spirit animal getting a
That
big
is,
win?
he's
this
a mascot
weekend?
for the Longhorn Blitz almost.
Yes.
He
Muschamp's
sort of
our
is. He
mascot.
should be.
It's like an unofficial
We
mascot.
need like a Muschamp voodoo doll in here on the desk.
That would be awesome. It
The-
should have
ooh, that would
blood
be great.
coming down its back. Yeah. And it's like we're stabbing it like it's Indiana Jones or something.
The,
but
the Blitz has many mascots. Cotton Hill is one of the mascots
Yes,
now
yes.
with Holton Hill playing so well. So
Yes.
Cotton Hill now a mascot. It's like Texas. Texas has two mascots, Matthew McConaughey and Bevo.
If anybody wants to Photoshop Cotton Hill wearing a number 5 Texas jersey and send it to us, we would greatly appreciate it. Which, by the way, I don't know if we got new listeners. Where the
great.
Cotton Hill reference comes from is, I
Oh,
believe, I
man.
don't remember if it was last season or during the spring. Matt referred to Holton Hill in a slip of the tongue as Cotton Hill.
Yeah, I had no
Great
clue I
nickname
said it.
though, man.
And I said, hey,
Cotton
maybe
Hill.
that's hard to play man coverage when you got no shins. That might explain quite a bit.
He is not playing like Cotton Hill this year though.
Not at all.
He's not playing like Cotton Hill anymore, man. Forget that.
What Hank Hill is to propane and propane accessories, Holton Hill is to the pick 6 this year.
Yeah, no, we
Some
definitely,
money.
if somebody
He
does
is money,
Photoshop it, you need to go. Because remember, whenever Cotton revisits his war days, like whenever he hid in the bottom of the sake and jumped out of the keg and killed 50 men, he has shins. So it's
Yes.
that Cotton Hill is the one that Holton is envisioning now, not the old man Cotton.
Cotton Hill was
without the shins.
6'4" when he left for the war.
Guys,
For the record.
I just got this picture of like this scarecrow. I just kind of wanted the Cotton Hill figure. I don't know. So we gotta make that come to fruition. The Cotton
Right.
Hill thing.
No, you're right.
It's
He
hilarious.
does sort of look like Holton looks like a scarecrow too.
He
He's
is
very
long.
skinny.
Oh, he does. Ooh.
Yeah, you could do a really cool little.
Man,
That's what it
like
should be
if
for
he could be
Halloween.
like scary looking.
Yeah.
Like if he.
it could be in a
that's good
horror
idea.
film.
That's a good idea. Okay.
We
we'll work
mentioned
on that.
pick sixes, and the
work on
third
that.
member of our team, our lockdown corner here on the show, knows a little something about the pick 6. Don't you, Rod B?
Oh, that's right. Oh, great stat that was thrown out there after the game. I'll give it to you in a second. Yeah.
He's
About
about
pick sixes.
stats. That's why he's the Renaissance man of the podcast. Lifetime Longhorn, 2002 UT All-American, a 2002 semifinalist for the Jim Thorpe Award, 4th-round draft choice of the New York Giants back in 2003. Spent his NFL career with the Giants, Lions, Bears, Bucks, Broncos, and a year with the Hamilton Tiger Cats of the CFL. When he was done in Canada, got himself back to Austin, Texas, and the 40 acres, where he earned his degree, and if he had a T ring, he would wear it proudly.
This is true.
Nonetheless, he's a card-carrying member of DBU. Number 21 in your program, number 1 in your hearts, Mr. Rod Babers. And
Your
Rod,
man
you
Drew
want-
Lieberman, who always has great stats, he tweeted this out right after the game. Holton Hill's 3 career pick sixes tie him with Rod B, myself, and Greg Brown for second most in Longhorn history. I didn't know it was second most. Who has the most? It's got to be Earl Thomas.
I believe Michael Huff was 4.
Yeah, Huff
Oh,
Daddy.
maybe it's Huff
was 4.
Daddy. Because Earl had, but Earl was here long enough. I think Earl had
only
a few
here
too.
He had
2
8
years.
picks in
Man,
that
it's crazy,
sophomore
right?
season.
And now that dude's like, man, that's crazy. That he is still, still trucking, going hard.
That's why I put Earl
Best safety
Thomas.
in the league.
Earl Thomas is on. If I have a DBU Mount Rushmore, Earl Thomas is on there because for the short while he was here, man,
Nobody had a
that was
bigger
an
impact.
Awesome. That was an awesome 25-game run
You're right.
he had. in
Nobody had a
Rhode
bigger
Island.
impact
No.
in a short amount of games.
By
You're
the way,
right.
Rod, what is real quick before we
Agreed.
get into this? What is your DBU Mount Rushmore?
Oh, man, that was tough. I think it's Jerry Gray, Johnny Johnson. I put Vasher on mine because I love me some Nathan Vasher, man. I always have. He went to the Hall of Honor this past weekend, so congrats to my boy Vasher. And, ooh, man, that'll last. It's got to be Huff Daddy. It's got to be Huff Daddy.
Yeah, Thorpe
Got
Award
it. He's
winner.
Thorpe Award winner. I put Nate on there because Nate played 2 positions. It was basically like an all-conference player at safety and corner, and just I just never met a guy who was a more natural ball hawk, man.
Yeah.
You have to play with Nate to appreciate Nate as much as I do. You know what I mean?
And, I mean, throw in his special teams, too, and you can arguably be one of the best DBs and one of the best return men in history. And then, like you were saying,
freak,
the
man.
instincts, it's all on display in the Carlos Francis play. He's back there returning
Yeah.
the kick, and he just turns into the biggest hit you've ever seen in college football.
It's a good
Nathan
point.
Vasher
Great
was ahead
football
of his time.
He was, yeah. He was. You know what? Earl Thomas was kind of like that too, and because Earl Thomas was a football player first. Like he played different positions in high school. He was a corner when Coach Aquino first got a hold of him, and people thought he was too short to be playing safety. And Coach Aquino was like, "Man, he's got instincts under like no DB I've ever seen."
But you talk about the 5-tool DB. To me, Nathan Vasher is the definition of the 5-tool DB.
Great point. Great point.
You got safety corner. You want to play boundary corner, field side corner, field safety, boundary safety, nickel, whatever.
Anything.
He can do it and do it at a high level.
That's a great point.
So on my Mount Rushmore, I mean, it's Johnny Johnson, Jerry Gray, Nathan Vasher, Earl Thomas.
I can't hate on that, man. I can't hate on that.
It's a Mount Rushmore without the two Thorpe Award, either of the two Thorpe
But
Award
if Johnny Johnson and Jerry Gray were around when the Thorpe Award was around, they'd have won it.
Johnny Johnson won the equivalent of it. It was like the Downtown Athletic Club gave like, I don't know what it was. It was like the Downtown Athletic Club DB of the year or
something like that. Yeah. No, Johnny Johnson was, I want to say,
DB of the year.
Johnny Johnson did something crazy like made All-American 3 years in a row. It's something freakish about
All-American.
Yeah, it's something freakish about Johnny Johnson's history on the 4 acres that nobody else has ever done. That's why he makes it on the Mount Rushmore. It's like I think it's like 3-time All-American or something like that.
And Jerry Gray ran down Bo Jackson from behind. So
done.
Aside from anything else he did,
done.
Yeah, you just gotta say that, and it's like, okay, yeah, you're
done.
good. You're good. Done. What was good, guys, was seeing Texas get a 56-0 win, and we'll get into SC and everything that goes with that game. But general impressions, guys, I thought the defense, specifically the run defense, and I don't care who you're playing. Granted, San Jose State, Rod, by the time this is all said and done, they might be the worst team in FBS.
They're bad, man.
They're going to be in the conversation.
They're bad, yeah. Their defense was terrible.
But when you look at the totality of what Texas did against the run, I don't care who you're playing, when you hold a team to 1.8 yards per carry, 42 rushing yards on 23 carries, that's a really good day at the office. Run fits were good. San Jose State really didn't get anything going in the run game all day.
And I'll say this: I want to be positive here. Okay, so the defense was fantastic. Like I said, shutouts are rare. My man Matt texted me the amount of shutouts I had on the 40 acres, and we had 6 shutouts. But keep in mind, we were a top 15, 20 defense almost every year I was here.
Right.
So we were a really good defense.
Y'all were even like the best defense year 2000.
Yeah. So, and we only had 6 of them my entire career. So it's rare to get a shutout. You get a shutout, man, you had an extraordinary performance for a defense. And I don't care if it is San Jose State. Yeah, it's hard to hold somebody to a goose egg.
You just did what you're supposed to do if you hit your peak performance.
Exactly.
And you didn't even hit your peak performance in this game.
But that being said, guys, I watched that film.
And I have not watched it yet.
You ain't watched the film? Okay. Can we all agree that San Jose State was just not talented enough to capitalize on a lot of errors that were also errors that we saw versus Maryland? Not everything was corrected. Right. I saw guys' eyes in the backfield. You know, San Jose State just couldn't take advantage of it. I saw guys out of position, reading the wrong keys. But there was progress. So I don't want to be doom and gloom, but there are some things that San Jose State couldn't take advantage of that USC ultimately
The main thing there, Rod, I agree. And there's a lot of people on the flagship message board at horns247.com. They want your opinion on some of the defensive back play and schematically and technique-wise that are still glaring issues with this football team. I agree with you 100%. My issue, and I thought run fits were much better. I thought the defensive line being able to reestablish the line of scrimmage, everything just seemed a lot more
brisk.
fluid. Yeah,
it is. It was. I agree with that. Yeah.
My issue with this defense is this, Rod. And this goes back to something I talked about last week. And look, maybe with more reps, Charles Amena, who could be that guy. Maybe, and I don't know that he's healthy. Maybe a healthy Malcolm Roach is this guy. There's not a War Daddy difference maker on this defensive line. There are some nice players. There are some very good role players. But there's not a Malcolm Brown. There's not even what Texas had 2 years ago with a healthy Hassan Ridgeway. Yeah. There's not that presence that an offensive coordinator will break down Texas on film and say, that guy right there, we got to know where that guy is at all times. We got to account for that guy on every single snap.
Yeah, it was definitely not at the interior defensive line, even though we all agree Puna is still one of your better players, but Puna's got a ceiling.
Right.
And like those guys you mentioned, the Hassan Ridgeways, to Malcolm Brown, a lot of those guys, they didn't really have their ceiling was an NFL player. That was their ceiling.
They're still reaching it.
Yeah. And although Puna may make it to the league, not saying he can't, I don't think his ceiling is as high as those guys'
Jackson
ceiling.
Jeffcoat had 2 healthy shoulders.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I thought Malcolm Roach, if healthy, and I don't think he's healthy.
He doesn't look it.
Can we all agree that we don't think Malcolm Roach is healthy? Now, I know he was dealing with, a turf toe during the offseason. So, and turf toe is one of those things, honestly, you never heals until you get an offseason to heal it. Like, it's just, he's going to have a turf toe for the entire season. That's the
Right.
way it works, and it makes you less effective. So I think that could be bothering him because otherwise I think he could be kind of that natural disruptor. You just see somebody that causes havoc on that
Right.
D-line, a disruptor.
Right.
Nobody gets in the backfield. I was just doing the research on the last time Texas had shutouts, right? And the last time they had a shutout at home was 2011. Last time they had a shutout, period, was 2014.
I caught the
versus Kansas.
broadcast today on my way in,
Right?
and this stuff was
And
fascinating.
you look at those defenses, I'm like, man, those defenses, man, they had some war daddies on that front line. They did. I mean, that 2014 defense had Malcolm Brown. I think Desmond Jackson. Hassan Ridgeway was actually a youngster
so 2
on that
draft
defense.
picks on the interior.
on the interior, and that's not including the guys on the back. I think Jordan Hicks, and he was a senior on that defense.
Steve Edmond, who's a really good linebacker here.
You know what I mean? So you had veteran players. Now, 2011, and you go back even to that group, and you had Keyston Randall and
Chris Whaley
Chris
hung around
Whaley.
in the NFL
You're right.
for a few
Forgot
years.
about Chris Whaley was on that defense too. So I think,
Ashton Dorsey might have been an NFL guy had he kept his head on straight.
and then you had Manuel Acho and Keenan Robinson, who's still in the NFL right now balling.
And
So,
a young Jordan Hicks. on
young
the-
Jordan Hicks, that's right.
linebacker group.
Forget about that. So I just think with those
Best
groups,
coverage linebacker in football last year.
you had those veteran players who had extremely high ceilings, and I'm starting to look at this defensive line for Texas. And other than Malcolm Roach, who right now looks like he's hurting, I don't know if they have a guy on that defensive line that's a disruptor like that with a really high kind of NFL. That's a Sunday skill set, as they would say.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I agree with you. I think they've got some serviceable parts. I think Puna 4 gives you everything he's got. But this team, and this is what worries me about this team long term, Rod. When you look at the numbers, and I'll pull it up here against
What,
San
they have
Jose
2
State. They had
sacks on
two tackles for loss against Maryland.
And 3 versus San Jose State, 'cause they got 5 on the season.
Yes, 3 against San Jose State.
Yeah.
But you look, I mean, Edwin Freeman got his in garbage time. Jamari Chisholm got his in garbage time. I don't know. Chisholm's might have been earlier in the game. I don't remember off the top of my head. But five tackles for loss in 2 ball games, and it's this defense, Todd Orlando's defense. It thrives on. It's at its best when you're creating negative plays.
Exactly. When your guys are resetting the line of scrimmage in the backfield.
And there aren't enough negative plays. There aren't enough splash plays being made. And where that's a problem is, and you look, there's only been 2 sacks in the first 2 games.
2
Yes,
sacks.
in
That's
the
it,
first 2
brother.
games.
Pass rush hasn't been
Rod,
there.
if you're a defense that has to blitz to create a pass rush, if you can't create a pass rush out of just playing straight up base defense, you're gonna run into that high risk, high reward type stuff.
Well,
you're inevitably gonna do it.
If you had extreme confidence, and we used to blitz a lot when I played on the 4 to get pressure. Granted, different era of football, not as the spread wasn't as prolific back then, but we would still blitz when we played Tech in Oklahoma to create pressure. But that's because Carl Boris had a lot of trust on the guys that can cover on the back end. We were just talking about Nathan Vasher and myself, Quentin Jammer, Michael Huff was a young pup in that secondary.
So it said G.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, we had guys, even if they may have some mental breakdowns or some errors that's just young players, in terms of alignment, assignment. But, hell, they could cover. They can go put them in man-to-man, and Huff can cover it. You know what I mean? And so could Griffin. So I wonder, you're going to get into a little bit of you're going to get into a situation where you're going to have to manufacture some pressure without guys being able to disrupt naturally on their own. And when you do that, you're going to leave those cornerbacks. And Holden Hill's been playing really well, so hopefully he can kind of get into a shutdown corner phase for you. But you don't have a guy that's reliable and proficient at man-to-man on the back end, and that's the concern. Yet, maybe guys will develop into that later in the season. But right now, even P.J. Locke, who I thought would come in and be your kind of standout defensive back performer and guy you can build around, he has not yet performed up to those expectations.
So let's talk about the secondary, because this is something a lot of people want to know about.
Man.
When we talk about eye control, we talk about just discipline and techniques. Rod, I want you, the floor is yours. You break down everything you see wrong with this secondary right now.
Yeah, I think you just said it. And even
And
Todd
first
Orlando.
of all, before we get started, kind of break down for it, because it's easy for us to talk about eye control here, because I feel like
good
we
point.
can have that conversation.
We dropped that term a lot.
So kind of define eye control, and then the floor is yours to say whatever.
It's a good point, because, I mean, think about on that football field, there are a lot of things that can distract you. I remember Brian Harsin used to always say he loved what he called funk, which was pre-snap motions and shifts. He always said motion causes emotion. You give those defenders a lot of stuff to look at and process. Even if it doesn't mean a damn thing, you motion that guy and motion them back. You know what I mean? But it's more for that defender to process. And I could end up getting his eyes locked on something that they shouldn't be locked on. They shouldn't be keying on that. But, you looked at that guy in motion, and maybe you kept your eyes on him a little too long. They snapped the ball, and you didn't see the receiver release, or you didn't watch the quarterback, so you didn't get your three-step read. So there are keys to every play and every coverage, things you should be looking at from alignment assignment to from the snap, and then as the play progresses. And, yes, he's talking about 4 or 5 seconds, all right, of lightning fast action. You got to process a lot. So say I'm in zone coverage. This happens a lot, and Chris Boyd has been guilty of it. You're in zone coverage, and you're in cover 3. And you're reading your keys in cover 3, and your cover 3 read, and first read is your number 2 receiver. You count from the sideline in. So the closest receiver to the sideline is number 1, then you count in. Then that's number 2. Then the tight end maybe number 3. Hell, maybe the back, that's your number 3 receiver. And what you are watching is you're keying on number 2 in cover 3, because if that number 2 receiver takes you deep, say he keeps going deep, then you know, hey, I need to stay deep, deeper than the deepest. You know what I mean? But say that number 2 receiver runs away from you on a drag route, then your eyes immediately need to go number 1, because he's no longer your concern. He's away from you. He's going into another zone. Go back to number 1, which essentially makes you kind of in a man coverage situation. It's zone, but it's it's developed into a man, evolved into a man coverage.
Within your zone.
Exactly, right? Within your zone. And this is and I'm not questioning football IQ, because Coach Akina is the one who kind of broke it down for me. But every zone deteriorates into a man at one point. You know, you got to understand. Now, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you got to decide between, passing a guy off or trying to stay in the middle of 2 guys. Say you got a smash route, which they call a smash 7, which you have the number 2 receiver runs a corner route, all right? So he runs 15 into the corner, and the number 1 receiver, the one right by the sideline, runs a hitch route. Well, if you're in cover 2, you might want to divide the space up between those guys and have that quarterback make a really tough decision between throwing that smash route, the quick route, or throwing a deep route. And you're probably going to want him to throw the smash route so that you can come up and tackle it, rather than him throwing the ball deep and then you having to worry about the guy getting behind
So
you.
hypothetically, let's say you've got a smash concept. If you're the corner there, are you splitting the difference, or are you making
Depends on if you're Nathan Vasher or Rod Babers. See, Nathan Vasher going to split the difference. Why? Because he's a ball hawk.
Right.
So Nathan Vasher, when that quarterback takes his hand off the ball, Nathan Vasher, he knows a little bit more than Rod B. His instincts take him some places Rod B. brain just don't work like that. So Rod B. is covering the deeper. I'm gonna make him throw it to the shallow, and I'm gonna come up and break on it. But Nathan Vasher's gonna stay right in between, right in the middle, because he's a ball hawk, and he See, so some guys you gotta know your strengths and weaknesses too. I always remember when the ball's thrown deep, and Coach Aquino would be like, "Hey, baby, you know what I like about you? You know yourself. You when the ball's thrown deep." He knew I didn't have hands. I'm known as stone hands on the 40 acres, but I would play the man because I can't play the ball. I would mess up if I played the ball. Now, Nathan Vasher, that ball's in the air, that dude's a receiver. He's a straight-up wide out. He just started running. Like, he feels the receiver. Don't even need to touch him. Yeah. It was freaky. I had to touch the receiver. I have to literally be touching him to know where he is. Then I can look back at the football. Not Nate. Ball's thrown. He's a receiver. He feels
it's
the
race
receiver
to the
behind
ball
him.
because he knows the receiver's going to the ball.
When we talk about eye discipline, we're talking about the keys, your different keys that you have based on your game plan, based on the film you've watched, and based on the coverage you're in. So there are guys now that when they're in cover 3, I can see them just staring into the backfield at the quarterback. And remember the 3rd and 19? 3rd and 19, they have a max protection, right? Against Maryland. Sorry, having flashbacks. Against Maryland, 3rd and 19, everybody remembers the play. They have a max protection. They only send 3 receivers out. The 2 receivers to the short side of the field, opposite of Chris Boyd, where they actually got the first down, they send 2 receivers out there, but there's not even a number 2 receiver on Chris Boyd's side of the field. So essentially, you're playing man.
Yeah.
You should stay deeper than deepest. You should respect the rules of the coverage. But you're in man, dog. You're basically kind of in a man coverage. You have to understand that. So I just think guys, they don't really kind of understand what the coverages evolve into or deteriorate into, as Coach Aquino would say. And as a result, they don't know where to put their eyes on any given play. You're in man coverage, then, yeah, you can take a 3-step cheat, as they say, on the quarterback. See if he has a 3-step drop. Once he gets past 3 steps, though, you better snatch back to the wide receiver quickly. Sometimes when the guys, I see them cheating on the quarterback, they don't snatch back to the wide receiver. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's eye discipline, because now the wide receiver's running and you're looking in the backfield, and the wide receiver just got behind you or got even with you, and that means it's already too late. So we talk about eye discipline. That's what we're talking about, knowing what to read and when to read your keys throughout a play. It happens really quickly, and these guys haven't really figured it out yet. And also, as route combinations. This is also, we're looking at route combinations too. Sometimes your number 3 becomes a number 2. with a crossing route.
Right.
So all these things, I think that they are undisciplined at, and even Todd Orlando admitted that too. Happens with young guys all the time, but against USC, that could end up being fatal.
Right.
Against a quarterback the caliber of Sam Darnold.
So other than eye control and just being undisciplined, knowing your route combinations and recognizing things, what other are there any other issues you see?
Yeah, I mean, listen, some of the I would say some of the angles to the football for the safeties has bothered me. Not so much against San Jose State, but I don't think you're going to be challenged as much with San Jose State. Speed on the outside, getting to the perimeter versus Maryland. The angles, man. Listen, that's one thing about football. I always say football. People say football speed. Football speed. Football speed. I always say football speed is people who diagnose angles better than others. That's it. Because football is all angles. And I've noticed about our safeties coming down at those run fits, sometimes they take really sharp, steep angles to the football, not anticipating a guy making a step. So you got to come down under control. And a lot of times they come down ready to take somebody's head off, and then I think they can miss completely. So with the safeties, that's really been my concern. The safeties have not been exposed a ton in coverage. You know what I mean? Nobody's really tested our safeties as much because I think they're just game playing to test our corners.
They're getting tested this week.
They will be tested this week. I can guarantee you that. No. The entire defense and secondary will be tested this week. It may be their biggest test all this year. I mean, that's how good this offense is for USC and how good Sam Darnold is.
Yeah. Let me bring up something. I want to go back to the DB specifically, but something with the whole defense, Rod. And this kind of, I don't know if it goes into what you're talking about with angles, but I see guys, and I saw it not as much against San Jose State as I saw it against Maryland, but you still saw it in spots. I see an issue with guys being so out of control.
Yeah.
I don't really see guys sometimes doing a consistently good job of coming to balance and just making a play in space.
Agreed. Out of control, under control, we used to call it.
Yeah.
Get out of control to the football, but once you get there, get under control and make a tackle.
Like
that's why I said the safeties are flying down like in this steep fashion. I'm like, man, he better be right about this angle he's taking, and then he's not.
And that's where you heard Coach talk about recklessness to play with, but then there's that calculated angle where you have to weigh. But that's where it goes back to you, where you were just saying, know your own strengths as a person, how you knew your strengths, and Vasher had different strengths, and then you know your teammates' strengths. So some of these things come with experience and working together, so they may have some time that these can develop, even if you haven't seen the indicators yet.
Rod, you want to go to that football term? It's not as complex as eye control, but anybody that's if you've ever been to a practice, even a high school practice, go watch a high school practice defense. You'll always hear linebackers coach, your DB coach say, come to balance, come to balance, come to balance, make a hit, come to balance, make the stick.
Yeah, because somebody's going to make you look bad. USC has athletes that will make you look bad. Running there out of control with run of reckless abandon, and then you're not balanced once you get there, so you can make a tackle, so you can anticipate.
Your weight's over your toes.
Yeah, exactly. Your nice pad level, anticipating that guy making a move. It's kind of that reading body language, but I think Matt's got a good point though about how there's a trust factor. And I can do my job. I always knew as a corner that if I force it back inside, the cavalry was coming. Like, I literally did. All I had to do was do my job. If I could just force it back inside, I didn't have to always make the play. If I could violently force it back inside, man, C-Red was coming, Vasher was coming, Brooks was coming. They were coming. Like, my group, they were going to be there. So I do wonder at times if guys, and Tom Herman talked about this, guys trying to do too much, right?
Exactly.
Guys overextended, trying to do too much because.
Trying to make the play individually.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't even know if that trust
is
there.
Because at times, hell, I did try to do my job a year or so ago, and then that guy went for a touchdown, and everybody thought it was my fault. But because you didn't trust your teammate to take care of their responsibility. So I think a lot of it could be that, man. A defense has to work in
selfishness.
This unison, this unanimity at times. And I think at times you see guys, and it's a good thing that they're trying to do too much and they want to make that play. But you trying to make that play, you got yourself out of position. You took the block on with the wrong shoulder because you overextended, and now you blocked two guys. Yeah. Right? And now the guy just ran. And I saw that versus Maryland. I literally saw that a couple of times. I saw P.J. Locke do it once. He went down, took a bad angle to the football, trying to make a play in the backfield. He took the block on with the wrong shoulder, blocked him and the inside linebacker.
Anthony Wheeler.
And then the guy runs up right outside of him. And I was like, you forced that back inside. Everybody knows you forced that back inside. But he was just, I got to make that play. I'm trying to make this play in the backfield. But if he had just done his job, Wheeler would have made that play. You know what I mean? One of those situations.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
That's no knock on Anthony Wheeler, but nothing was for sure against Maryland.
They tackled better versus San Jose State, too. We ain't talked about
Here's the thing I want to get to with the secondary, Rod, and I saw this from Holton Hill, saw it from Chris Boyd, Deshaun Elliott, too. I know these coaches coach ball skills because I've been at practice. I've seen them coach how to play the ball, how to track it.
Agreed.
Everything. and it seems like you can almost feel the strain and the panic in guys' body language when the ball's in the air. Yeah.
And I had that too, man. I'm gonna lie. As a defensive back, I had it too. It's almost like a fear of height. It's weird because you relish it, but when that ball's in the air, if you don't have great ball skills, and that was to me, I didn't have great
Sounds
ball.
like hitting on a
So
tick
I
or
had
something.
to crystallize my focus on the ball. And I think my draft report, the one that knocks on me was Rod B. When the ball's thrown, like when it's a deep ball, sometimes his height is a liability, and he may not always play the ball well. You know what I mean? And I do think at times, guys get too tight. It's something about that ball being thrown where they don't become natural athletes. And I think a coach can't really teach you how to cover a deep ball.
Okay,
Like
that's kind of what I was getting at.
You know what I mean? Like that's something
That's when
like
instincts kick in when
that's
the
when
ball's
your
in the
football
air.
player can. I can teach you how to that technique at the line of scrimmage so that you don't get beat, so that you can stay in front of the guy. I can teach you, how to read the 3-step and what your keys should be. But once we're in a straight up sprint down the field and the ball's thrown in the air, usually the best football player is going to win that.
Once
one.
it comes down to instinct and nature at that point,
Yeah,
then if
you
you're at the
gotta
same
kn-
point,
yeah.
one will separate.
You got to learn how to sprint full speed, but also leaning on a wide receiver to look back. I mean, these are things like it's hard. Like Coach Keenan would teach that. Like, all right, you know what, Rob B, you need to do the look and lean. He's had names for it, the look and lean. So you get to the receiver. I was really fast. So I can catch to the receiver, and I get around his hip. You always say like elbow his hip, like you know what I mean. Like they would call that like try to get the hip bone if you can. Like run,
Lock in there.
Then you hit him on the hip, and then you extend so you can feel and as you extend, you look back. It's
Lock
not a
the hip,
PI if I'm looking
extend.
at the ball.
Right.
That's just
Grab
how
his
that's how I run. And it was a technique he taught. So I do wonder if the coaches are identifying these issues and saying, all right, you know what, Chris Boyd, come here, man. Me and you need to work out of practice. We got to work on this specific. And I remember Coach Aquino would work with me on the look and lean. That was my Vasher didn't work on the look and lean. Vasher didn't need it.
Not everybody can be that gifted.
Not everybody's that gifted. Robbie needs to look and lean. Man. I remember because me and Quentin Jammer had bad hands, and he would always have us. That would be our thing. We'd have to do the look and lean. But that aside, the point is, it's individual. It's on an individual basis now. As point of guys getting anxiety when a deep ball is thrown, and they're in decent coverage. You know what I mean? A lot of times the wide receiver slows down when the ball is thrown. People don't know. They usually slow down. Not a lot of the wide receivers are hit in stride as they're running deep. It's rare. Usually his wide receiver he'll slow down just a little bit so he can adjust to the ball. You know what I mean? And that's your time to adjust too. So I do wonder if they are, because I think Hilton Hill has great ball skills. Right? I mean, am I tripping? I think he has good. Now, I don't know. Now, when it's thrown deep, that could be a different issue altogether. Seems like he has good ball skills.
My issue, though,
Chris
Rod,
Boyd is the one I worry about.
I don't see guys in a position enough time to where they can even make a play on the ball.
Now, that's coming back to the eyes and everything. They're chasing. Cause you spend all your time chasing while the ball's in the air, then you got no time to adjust to the ball.
Right.
You know what I mean? You might as well just go grab the guy and just have a
That's
PI at 15
That's what
yards.
it feels like. When I watch this team defend deep balls, that's what it seems
chasing.
like. That by the time you get to the guy, it's just
They're chasing.
yeah. I
I
just
agree.
got to maybe throw a hand up or
It's
something
panic.
and hope. Yeah.
Catching up,
It's
just
panic,
not getting
and then
burnt.
It feels like it's panic.
I agree with that too, and that just comes with the guys being out of position. And maybe if they were in position, they're in better position, they'd had more confidence on those deep balls. Because I'm with you, I hate the deep ball, so I would always try to be on the upside shoulder. You know what I mean? Like on a deep ball, like I would try to get because I was smaller, so I couldn't take the chance on a guy basically out rebounding me, big bodying me for the ball. So I had to be able to restrict them more than they restricted me. So I agree with you, man. But you know what? These guys don't play man as much as we did, so they don't play in tight with receivers like that. They play more off coverage, and I got nothing wrong with that. I think we should have played more off coverage too. But I'm with you. I don't think they have the confidence when the ball is thrown, and maybe it's because they've been out of position a lot of the time.
So, anything else you guys want to add about the defense? I think we pretty much covered it all. Right there.
Gary Johnson and Malik Jefferson should be on the field together
Gary,
more.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
I don't even know why that didn't happen in Maryland or why they weren't ready for it in
It's
Maryland.
funny that Gary Johnson's in the game for 2 plays. One is a tackle right around the line of scrimmage, and the other he just blasted a dude in pass protection.
He looks violent and he looks athletic. I don't. That's one of those things where I'm wondering, like, man, why wasn't that guy on the field? That guy should have definitely been on the field more. I do wonder if you'll start seeing. You start seeing more depth and more. Listen, if the secondary isn't getting it done, there are guys who aren't getting it done. I do wonder if Tom Herman will start seeing if other guys can contribute. We saw Edwin Freeman. You saw in the linebackers, they put some other guys out there. Like, hey, all right. So they must have not liked, or at least they wanted to see if they could get something more from the linebacker position.
Right.
They played more guys. Maybe in the secondary they don't have more guys. I don't know.
I don't think they have anymore.
They may not have more guys.
I mean, maybe you're looking at maybe Josh Thompson, a true freshman, but I don't know if this is a game where you want to throw a
Jason
true freshman
Hall?
in there.
They like him as a linebacker now. He goes in when they do like the
He's a
short
K-State.
line, short
He'll
yardage
be in when it's
defense now.
K-State and maybe some.
Oh, that's a
and
good
stuff
point.
Like, you know, whenever you're facing
more
the
physical
traditional
team.
run game,
That's a good
not
point.
the modern offenses. But while we're on the defense, a few numbers that I pulled up that I didn't mention last week, but then when he scored another TD this week, just added to him because oddly Holton Hill was a part of the unit before the Maryland game. The last time Texas had scored a touchdown on defense and special teams was actually involving him in Ridgeway against Oklahoma State in 2015. He was able to pull that off and actually had the 2 TDs, and being the only duo to do that was before, I think it was Malik and DeJay did it against Rice a couple years ago. But then now that Holton scored in back-to-back weeks, it was the first time and only time Alan Lowry in 1971 scored a defensive touchdown via pick 6 in back-to-back weeks. Nobody's done that since then, and that's a pretty damn good feat. There's one guy back in the day scored 2 TDs in the same game, I believe it was Bobby Dillon. But there's some new records. That's 3 times Holton Hill's put himself in the record books this year.
Is that it right there, Ron?
No, it's like a charger. I think I might have left in that woman's office. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
It's all
on my
good.
phone.
Searching around.
Go grab. If you need to go grab it, go grab it.
You sure?
Yeah.
I just don't want
There it is. Sitting on the phone. We don't even have to cut it out.
Sorry. I'm an idiot. Yeah, you
Should have
should keep that
texted
in
you.
there.
You would have
Yeah.
felt the
People should know-
vibration
people
underneath
should know how
your
much
butt.
of an
And
idiot
you're
I am.
wondering where
I
the
was
hell
sitting
things
on
go.
the damn phone.
We had a quagmire here.
I mean,
it
that's
happens
how-
all the time.
I
dude.
used to break things getting out of my car constantly because I put it between my legs, and you get out, and you just walk straight out and crash.
I think it's just, in football season, I get like that because I have so much stuff on the brain. Anyway.
All right. So I think that's going to do it for the defense. Trust me, we'll talk plenty of defense here when we get to USC here in a minute. But offensively, the big story was Sam Ehlinger getting his first career start at quarterback. We don't know if Shane Buechele is going to play against USC. I've heard it could be maybe up to 3 weeks that he could be out. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, it didn't sound like a serious injury, but I heard somebody told me over the weekend that it could be up to 3 weeks that he could be out. It's just going to, I guess, depend on how the rehab process goes. But Sam Ehlinger, considering the circumstances, I thought played well. And one of the reasons why he played well, Rod, Tom Herman mentioned it after the game. He mentioned it again Monday in his press conference. This team had a rededicated focus to running the football. And part of that was, and I asked Tom Herman about it on Monday, getting Kendall Moore on the field. He didn't play at all against Maryland.
Yeah.
You know, what went into him playing more. And Tom basically said, hey, we decided if we're going to run the ball, we've got to put our best run-blocking tight end on the field, which with Kendall Moore, you're basically adding a sixth offensive lineman because he was in the veer and shoot offense at Syracuse last year, and at least from a stylistic standpoint, that's kind of what he does. What Caleb Blewett did last year at Texas, that's what Kendall Moore was coached to do. So you're basically adding an extra offensive lineman. You're basically going heavy on every play, and, Rod, you could see it, especially when they were able to pair Kendall Moore and Denzel Okafor on the field at the same time. I felt like the push on the right side of the offensive line in the run game, it was noticeably different.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think you just hit the nail on the head, the terminology you used, the rededicated focus to the running game. I think Texas probably could have run the ball more successfully versus Maryland, too. They just seemed to abandon it. They panicked, obviously, when they got down. Also, not only the Kendall Moore thing, and I agree with you on that, I think that was big, and you see that they're trying to exhaust the depth chart a little bit to try to solve some of these issues. I like the fact that he decided to give it to his best running back.
Imagine that.
And I hate the way it sounds. It sounds like you're criticizing Kyle Porter when you start talking about this issue, but it's not at all. Kyle Porter is great for what Kyle Porter is, but like I said, Kyle Porter is a guy that moves the chains, but he didn't necessarily change the game. Chris Warren is a game changer. Yes, I know if you give Chris Warren 5 carries, which is, basically he got 6 carries.
He got 6 against Maryland. So.
Right, but look, that's a perfect sample size, right? Most of his yards in that Maryland game came from like 2 runs.
Right.
Of those 6. And I think other 2 he got stopped like at the line of scrimmage or maybe got 1 or 2 yards. But that's what he's going to do. He's going to get 2. If you give him 5 carries, 2 are going to go for no gain or minimal gain, and he's going to break 2. That's just kind of what Chris Warren is. You got to feed that beast. he does get into a rhythm. And I've heard Bucky talk about it too. He's like, man, running backs get into a rhythm. I've heard Ricky talk about it. They get into a little bit of a rhythm. You got to give that dude, you got to give him the rock and let him get into kind of a running rhythm. We used to call him Jeff the Angry Gazelle back in the day.
Yeah.
It takes him a little while to get going, but once he gets confident, you can see him. He starts bucking up too when he runs somebody over. He's like, he starts feeling it. So you got to get him going. Sometimes the identity of your offense, and they had an identity, thank God, against San Jose State, but let's preface everything by saying San Jose State's rush defense is just abysmal. It is atrocious. It's terrible. But at least they had an identity, and the identity was forged by Chris Warren.
And those are the type of backs that, not every back, as the game goes on, you have the cliche that, the running backs get better and run them down. But when you are a guy that is an imposing style back, he's the one for you to find his best success. It only makes sense for you to give it to him 20 times because carry 20 isn't going to hurt him as much as it's going to hurt other guys and then actually hurt the opposing team. So somebody like Kyle Porter maybe isn't fit and needing those 20 picks to equally disperse out what you think his production would be. A guy like Warren more so is that, so it makes sense that way. And at least in this game was sort of the first time that, we talk about the games back in the day, a decade ago or 2 decades ago, where when the backups came in, the backups and everybody looked as if, they were better than the opponent or actually somebody that was able to go out there and flash plays. There weren't really struggles, and that was something good to see both on the defensive side and the offensive side whenever somebody was plugged in, was able to not have much drop-off. And now probably was just the opponent, but still it doesn't matter in this situation. Texas needs as much of a confidence builder, slum buster, whatever you can get right now. Texas needs it just to get some confidence going into USC.
It's true.
The argument, Rod, with Chris Warren and Kyle Porter, it's no different than the Jonathan Gray, Deontay Foreman discussion we were having 2 years ago. It's the exact same conversation.
That's a great point. It is. I would say that after a diminished Jonathan Gray because of injuries, too.
Right.
But you're right. It's the same conversation. It was the same conversation. I remember this. Yeah.
That we all thought Deontay Foreman should have been playing more, and when they actually gave him the ball more,
it's something like coaches about experience, and they like guys who
are reliable.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to Kyle Porter's reliability and Chris Warren.
Oh yeah, you're right. The chicken pox, just being injuries,
yeah,
that kind of stuff.
It goes back to what we talked about with Chris Warren. He's in that Bo Scaife, Jordan Shipley category where you can't afford to build something around him, but if you've got him and he's healthy, man, use him.
Don't waste them. I agree, man. I think that you wasted them.
You can't save those bullets because, man, you don't know if
you're gonna have him.
Right, exactly.
Just use him when he's healthy, man. Because the chances are, I'm knocking on wood, that he's not going to be. He hasn't been healthy the entire season. I don't think it's his entire career.
Not to use gun analogies still, but man, unload the clip.
Unload the clip.
Yeah, let him go.
It's Texas. People
don't leave a bullet in the chamber, man. Seriously.
Well, you can't afford this weekend.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna need all of us.
I'm the one.
Man, they're gentrifying. It's like East Austin, and it's not like it used to be.
I'm looking forward to making that trip. So.
Oh, you going to USC?
I'm going to the game.
Nice,
man.
Dude, that's gonna be awesome.
Are you driving?
Lord,
what? No. I was gonna say I'm hopping in with you if you're driving.
Yeah, you can hop. Flying out there. I think Bevo leaves on like Wednesday.
I did. What game?
Yeah, that was so. After the 2013 Texas OU game, I remember driving back and seeing Bevo pass me up, and I would give him the hook.
They probably, you know what? They probably leave today actually because they probably want to hang out in Cali for a while.
True.
I drove to what game did I drive last year? Was it K-State?
You drove somewhere far. It was crazy. It was like a
K-State,
12-hour
was
ride.
The one I drove last year.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Pretty rough. Given when you drive somewhere and then it's like an exotic location when you get there, then you drive somewhere and then it's the
Manhattan,
Little Apple.
To watch a game that is not going to play.
Yeah. But anyway, going back to this offense, about the quarterback position specifically, I thought the running game helped Sam Ehlinger. Sam Ehlinger, he had some throws that were offline, typical from what you could expect from a true freshman in his first start. But, Rod, I thought his poise, his calmness in the pocket, he never really seemed to get rattled at all. His escapability, I thought, was huge at times. No official pressures recorded by San Jose State, no sacks. So the offensive line did their job, but I thought Sam Ehlinger did as good a job as you could have expected. There's some issues that I want to get into leading to the USC game that need to get remedied, but overall, I thought he played well, not well enough for there to be a quarterback controversy going forward, but I do think him playing well, along with mixing Gerard Hurd in, I think Tom Herman comes out of this game figuring out, okay, whether it's Buechele or Ellinger, Gerard Hurd's got to be a part of this thing going forward.
Yep.
And similar to tight end, right? Tom Herman wants that bona fide 5-tool tight end to make this offense work. He doesn't have that right now.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got a really good blocker in Kendall Moore. He's got a really good receiving threat in Cade Brewer. And doesn't know what he's really got in Reese Leto because Reese Leto hadn't played yet.
Yeah.
But he's got the kind of money ball it. Maybe you can make something function
Agreed.
at tight end to where it's not a negative. And I think that's kind of what he's facing at quarterback. He wants J.T. Barrett. He wants Greg Ward. He doesn't have J.T. Barrett or Greg Ward. But between Shane Buechele's accuracy, his acumen in the passing game, what Sam Ellinger brings you, and the run game element with Gerard Hurd, you can make all three of those parts. And, Rod, I wouldn't be shocked if against USC, assuming Buechele's healthy, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw all three of them. Because now that Ellinger's red shirts burn, why not?
First of all, I think it's brilliant that he just has all this uncertainty about the quarterback position in the air. Because now USC, if you're USC, you got to unfortunately prepare now for all three quarterbacks. Yeah. You have to.
Yeah.
It'd be irresponsible, foolhardy of you not to. You got to prepare for Sam Ellinger, even though you haven't seen that much of him, and you got to prepare for Shane Buechele, and then you got to prepare for the Gerard Hurd package. So
couldn't have engineered it better.
Exactly.
Actually.
That's always a good thing because you know that means they're wasting time in practice. We don't know how they're wasting time, and they don't know either, but they're wasting time in practice because they're just trying to prepare for all three quarterbacks. So that's a good thing. So I agree with you. He may have to, like you always say, kind of moneyball this thing, piecemeal it together.
Platoon.
I love the fact that, and I don't know why Gerard Hurd is still working out with wide receivers. Somebody's got to explain to me, man. I don't know what
I don't
the
think he did
on.
last week.
Yeah, I
think
heard
he
Herman
was just with the quarterbacks.
Okay, because I already still
today Herman was talking about how he would be back there and then getting some reps
at
for
wide
his package.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm like, man, screw that package.
I mean,
Move
honestly,
Gerard Hurd to quarterback now.
I mean,
it's ridiculous.
Your whole conversation about it makes 100% sense. I agree fully. I just think that the only thing I can draw from it is Herman has seen it and just doesn't think he can do more than be a guy that just adds. And I agree, you should still practice him, but for some reason he doesn't like what he sees, obviously, because he's been just saying, he's a wildcat quarterback that can sort of throw. He can perfect his handful.
And that's the thing too. You're gonna have to expand the Gerard Hurd package too. Because at this point it's predictable and everybody can game plan for it. So he's got to throw at 1.2. So why not just have him over there working with? I don't get that. For a really smart guy, man. So I say really smart guys, they just do things that I don't get, and I don't get him in this Gerard Hurd thing, man. It makes no sense. You got depth issues now at quarterback. You got an injury to your starting quarterback, Shane Buechele. You still don't know. We still don't know the severity of that. You got a true freshman behind him, and yet consider the quarterback position to be like an important investment or like an important anything, a commodity, anything that you have in your life that's worth a lot of money, a value. And usually you take insurance policy out on things of great value. The quarterback position is that thing of great value. It means more than any other position. The backup position is the liability insurance on that quarterback position. Hell, the third quarterback position is basically like full coverage. And right now, Texas needs full coverage, man, not just liability insurance, because they're going to get screwed. Because one of these quarterbacks, there's a really good chance one of them could end up getting hurt anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shane Buechele slight hurt already. Sam Ellinger, I love him, but he thinks he's a linebacker. And
he just doesn't play well. He's a freshman.
He's had 3 injuries coming out of high school. Hell, he's that guy had 2 or 3 surgeries already.
I thought he ran smart, though, against San Jose State.
That's fine. I'm cool with that, but it's San Jose State. It's
No,
easy
I
to run
get it.
smart
I
against
get
San
it.
Jose State. So my point is, why are you playing with the quarterback position? Out of all positions to play around with. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing?
Well, because right now, Ellinger, his quote, he has small bites of the offense, and I guess he just doesn't like what he sees from Hurd.
Here's my issue with the quarterback thing, though, Rod. And it's a different ball game.
Smart for that.
It's a different ball game now that Buechele's injured. But I've never understood the whole, well, this guy fits your system better than this guy. To me, the mark of a good offensive coordinator, a good offensive mind is, here's what this guy does really well. I'm going to accentuate those strengths, and I'm going to do what I can to mask his weaknesses. The weakness with Shane Buechele is he's not a guy you want carrying the ball 15 to 20 times a game. How do you remedy that? You run the football. You come up with different ways to move the football. You incorporate your screen game, which I think they tried to do that against Maryland when Buechele was in there. But assuming Shane Buechele plays on Saturday, I would hope that we see somewhat of a similar game plan as we saw against San Jose State, where there is a focus on we want to run the football. Now, They might decide to attack USC differently. I know Porter Gustin, their linebackers, having an MRI on his shoulder today. We'll see if he plays. And I know they've got some pieces out, but USC, I think, ranks like 113 in the country in run defense. You can run the ball on USC. They might decide, hey, we ran some more inside zone against San Jose State. Maybe we go some more power O stuff, or you mix it up in terms of stylistically how you operate your run game. But regardless of which quarterback is in the football game, there needs to be a focus on this is who we are. To be a successful offense, we've got to run the football, because if Texas can't run the football, we've already seen what that looks like. Yeah. And it's not a pretty picture.
Yeah. That's why I think the Gerard Hurd element is so crucial. It is. I know Longhorn fans don't really want to hear this. They don't like the idea of piecemealing the quarterback position together. But as you pointed out, for the compatibility of quarterbacks with this Tom Herman offense, it may be the best bad idea. Like, I don't know if it's a good idea to have 3 quarterbacks and be kind of using different guys for different skill sets and different personnel packs, different plays, but right now it may be your best bad idea. And like I said, I don't know if he's going to play Shane, Sam, and Gerard Hurd, but it could happen. Right now, I don't. And
why not?
Exactly. I mean, at this point, I'm like, why not? Like, because if it gives you, or at least it gives the defense more to worry about and have to defend more things, so it makes you a little bit more successful offensively because you keep them on their heels. I'm all for it.
Now Tom Herman's got to figure out throughout the flow of a game how to get those guys in. That's the challenging part of where that comes in. But the 2 things, Rob, that makes me believe why it's a good idea to play all 3 quarterbacks, it's in some way, shape, or form. You've already burned Ellinger's red shirt, so why not? And Bouchel's health. Like, keep Ellinger focused. And I know for a backup quarterback it's different than being a backup at another position.
No, but you're right, though.
Because you can only play one of those guys at a time. But I want to keep Sam Ellinger engaged and give him some game reps, because you know what? It could be the next series when Bouchel's back out there that something happens to that shoulder again, and he's back on the shelf.
Agreed.
And then you're going with Sam. So at least he's not coming off the bench cold. At least he's been in the game and at least has a feel for what's going on out there. You're not just throwing him to the wolves.
I agree. And I think your first point, it may be the most important. If you are going to, and we know he's going to play multiple quarterbacks, because I already said Gerard Hurd's going to play, and Shane or Sam's going to play, if not both. You gotta make sure you do it right. You got the flow of the game, the continuity, the fluidity. Like, don't screw up a good drive or something, or the quarterback's hot just to put in a drive. Now, if you do it, just make sure it's done in the fluidity, I think, of the offense, for lack of a better word.
I think Gerard Hurd's probably the guy you send in, maybe similar to what we saw with the 18-wheeler. Maybe if
red zone is a
you
great
decided
place for him.
If it's 3rd and 3 or less, then that's a Gerard Hurd. That's a Gerard Hurd play.
I like him. I like using him in the red zone a little bit, but you got to expand the package. Of course. We're all assuming that it will expand to some passing plays. I like him. I like him in the red zone. I love that thread in the red zone, man. I do. I think it's really good. Like the read option stuff in in the red zone is tough for defenders to react.
But that's why you can't. That's where coaches, I think, get themselves in trouble. Is you say, okay, you're going in, 3rd series is yours. Well, what if Shane Bouchel against USC? What if he starts out 9-10?
Any preconceived ideas is
like
always
why?
start.
Like why would you disturb that?
Agreed. Yeah.
Or if Bouchel's struggling, why are you going to wait till the 3rd series to put the guy in? If it's awful the first series, then why are you going to wait?
Yeah,
so you're saying basically Texas doesn't have a total package at quarterback?
No.
No Nordco's these days.
No Nordco.
I wish I had that drop from the old building. I think got to go pull that one now. That's the one I got to write down.
Yeah.
No. I don't know. I'll say this: Texas has 2 competent quarterbacks that they can win with.
I agree with this.
Okay, and there haven't been very many times in this current decade where we've been able to say that.
No, and that's where it sort of feels good when you have a freshman step in, and now the same way you had the hypothetical last week. Well, what happens if Ellinger plays good, and then there's a quarterback question? It's like, okay, please let us get to that point in Texas land where we have 2 good options to choose from, not where it's like, you're a controversy like that. I'll take that all day. I'll sign off twice on Sunday for it, and it's hopefully Texas can continue to progress to have that.
I want to stay on that for a second, Matt. Where are you guys at, Rod? Because here's where I'm at on the quarterback thing. I think if Shane Bouchel's healthy, he's your starter.
Yep.
Yes.
I thought Sam played well, but not well enough to where you should be able to make that determination. Okay, he's the guy.
Yeah, and the Hermans echo those same things.
Yeah, and even against San Jose State, I don't know. Sam Ehlinger would have to throw for like some ungodly amount of yards and have a ridiculous performance against San Jose State for me to start believing that, he should overtake Shane Boucher.
What I like to see from him was that throughout the game, it seemed as if he improved within, because early on there was miscommunication on little stuff like hot routes or just who's running a certain pattern, and then there were some actual accuracy issues. And he had one throw go over receiver's head, I believe, in the third quarter, but after the first quarter, you only saw one or two, so it was good to see that he actually sort of improved throughout the game.
I'll tell you this, and maybe this is me being prisoner of the moment, I don't know. I feel better about Sam Ehlinger coming out of that game than I ever did about David Ash's freshman year.
Yeah, Ash's, his freshman year when he was thrown in, he had a 5-game package against BYU. But yeah, I remember that one, the 3-headed.
Like, I think it goes back. It goes back to the Tom Herman, Charlie Strong comparison that I made. Like, I wanted Charlie to win. I hope Charlie will win. I know. I feel like I know Tom Herman's going to win. I wanted David Ash to be great. I wanted David Ash to be special. I hoped he would.
Yeah.
I feel like I know what Sam Ehlinger brings to the table. Like, you got a pretty good idea. This is what Saturday, I think, did for you. You get a pretty good idea of where the baseline is, and you saw some flashes here and there of where the ceiling might be.
Yeah, and that's what I talked about that on the show today. I think he is one of those guys where he's an old soul, so usually it takes players about a year and a half, maybe 2 years to develop like a really consistent baseline where you perform at a certain level and a certain standard to the point where, hey, if I was a defensive back, my coach would go, hey, man, you're covering the top wide receiver this week, and I just have that trust in you that you're going to take care of that. Your coach will give you more responsibility he gives anybody else. I think, and obviously the quarterback position, it's a natural leadership position. I think he'll develop a baseline where you won't, and young players have they have this, and all of them deal with it, the roller coaster of inconsistency.
Right.
Some days you're playing like you're the best player on the field, and some days you play like you don't deserve a scholarship. Because at practice, and it's hard for coaches to evaluate that inconsistency with Sam Ehlinger, and I don't know where he is now. I'm assuming that the reason Coach Herman has so much trust in him is because he's developed kind of a high baseline for a freshman quarterback already.
And let's add this in there too. I know he's got a great story with his father passing away and him having to become the man of the house. But on top of that, it's kind of hard to quantify it if you're not in Austin and follow high school football. If you're going to play quarterback at Westlake, and you're going to play quarterback for Todd Dodge, that bar's set pretty dang high.
No, you're spot on. I was actually just thinking when Rod was talking about this, it brought me back to the kicker conversation we're having about Texas, too, because, you see Texas struggling at kicker again this year, and I was just thinking back. It's like, a kid coming from JUCO, first time in a stadium, 100,000 people. It's not an excuse, but it maybe explained that it early on wasn't as comfortable in this chaotic environment. But then I was like, but then, you get a kid like Justin Tucker from down at Westlake. He just comes in. He's been playing in this pressure atmosphere his whole life, no problem. And right when you were talking about Ehlinger, I was like, well, for a freshman, if you could have a primer, it's like Westlake versus Lake Travis. They were playing that in that stadium for years. There is some type of comfortability when you come from one of those super 6A, they call it now.
You're in the state championship game at NRG against North Shore, 30,000 people.
But you feel exactly.
It's practically a home game for North Shore.
That's a good point. I agree with that.
So there's just those little, just like the same baselines that you felt comfortable with Bouchel being the former pro athlete's kid or coach's kid. You can look at these things that maybe let them start off their career early, and then you can build from there.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and get on to USC. We're talking about Texas and USC. USC ranked fourth in the country, coming off of a 42-24 win over Stanford. I had the Cardinal winning that game last week. I was wrong, and that cost me the win in our weekly pick'em, so that's a shame. But, Rod, I watched the whole fourth quarter of that game.
Oh, did you really?
And, brother, I was shocked at how Stanford's offensive line was able to push – that's USC's offensive line, was able to push that Stanford defensive front around.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see very many games where a David Shaw coach team, a Stanford team from the Harbaugh era on, where they just get pushed around like USC did. Yeah.
I agree with that. Listen, USC is really talented. I looked at the wide receivers. They're deep. It's deep in the skill positions, man. Their defensive backs are kind of a blur. And obviously we talked a lot about Sam Darnold. I think he's like completing close to 75% of his passes or something. I mean, he's just
How do you like
freak.
USC's game notes?
He's
How do you
a
like
freak.
this notes in the series? The USC is 4-0 in its current series with Texas. not including one loss vacated due to NCAA penalty.
Oh, well done. Well done, USC.
Way to right.
That's
Loophole in it.
that is
Like,
a
yo,
hell of a
how
loop.
can you make yourself look good
Wow.
in this situation?
That's called the
No.
that's called the
Yeah, thank you,
spin
Reggie
zone right
Bush.
there, right? That's
Yeah.
a hell of a spin.
Well, no, in our other Heisman, the guy was a murderer, but
right?
it's okay.
Man, give them
Allegedly. Allegedly.
No, I'll
true.
take that off. OJ killed her.
Allegedly, man. Allegedly. He didn't go
No.
to jail for that.
If
No.
the glove does not fit, you must
He's
acquit
still
it.
looking for the killer, brother.
Yes.
He gets
He's
out of jail.
Yeah, when he
He's
gets
out of
out
jail
in
next
October,
month.
Yeah, Helton said you aren't allowed around this program.
he'll be back on a mission
He was asked that during the offseason.
at a golf course near you, but that's neither here nor there.
He definitely will be. Looking
Rod,
in the
this
woods.
USC offense, man,
It's prolific.
I'm looking at their depth chart,
Yeah, man.
and you go down it, and I love their offensive line. They got some experience on that
Wideouts
offensive
to
line.
nasty.
We'll talk about Darnold here in a second, but man, you go to their running back position and getting ready to preparing for this game and looking at what USC's got and seeing Ronald Jones on that USC roster and thinking about this is a guy who idolized Jamal Charles growing up, and he was a Texas fan.
He did the horns down.
He did the horns down, and,
on,
and
man.
that hurts.
That did hurt.
Well, not the horns down. The fact that kid's playing for USC and not Texas, that hurts.
Yeah,
Texas misspelled his name on a piece of recruiting mail.
Not going to work well.
Yeah, just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why, because he was a big Texas fan and
They
wasn't
just
getting the
misspelled
offers.
his
And then
name?
Called him
finally,
Roland Jones.
because they had disrespected him, he didn't get what he wanted. Then he finally gets a letter, and they don't even know his name.
Yeah, you can't. That's bad.
Yeah.
That's bad.
But
man.
Rod, I know Sam Darnold doesn't
Details.
bring you the dual threat element that other quarterbacks
man.
Texas faces. Well,
It doesn't matter.
but yeah, this
He's an
offense,
NFL quarter. He might be the number one overall pick. So
it's been a long time since we've seen a USC offense that was this potent. And you go back to last year, and I watched a few of their games last year. You go back to when Clay Helton made the move to go to Sam Darnold after I think they started 1-2.
Mm-hmm.
They've won every game, or 1-3, whatever it was. They won every game since then. They just steamrolled Stanford. At the end of the day, I just don't see how Texas is going to be able to come up with enough stops.
Yeah.
You're going to have to take risks. Inevitably, you're going to get burned a time or two. It's hard for me to envision a scenario where Texas gets enough stops to win this ball game.
I was talking to an NFL scout friend of mine, and he was talking about Sam Darnold and how he's expected to be the number one overall pick when he comes. That's between like him and like Josh Rosen and some other guy. But
Mason Rudolph probably in that conversation.
Mason
too.
Rudolph might be in that. I think it's going to be Sam Darnold when it's all said and done. When was the last time Texas faced a quarterback that was this good? Because apparently he's supposed to be better than Jared Goff, and Jared Goff is the number one overall pick.
Well, Rod, you and I crunched the numbers, and since the start of the 2010 season, which is when the downturn began, Texas has faced 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,
Tannehill
12,
and Mahomes
13 quarterbacks that have been drafted.
Yeah, 13 that have been drafted.
13 that have been drafted,
Yeah.
and some of those were multiple times. Their record against those guys since the start of the 2010 season, 4-17.
Yeah, man, that is mind blowing when you think about it. Because, man, 4-17. I mean, so
when we start looking at
and it's talking about quarterbacks who were just drafted, not first round guys.
Yeah.
So this is guys who were drafted in the seventh
And
round,
if you're looking at
6th round,
And if you're looking at guys that were taken in the first round, Tannehill was a first-round pick. Whedon was a first-round pick. RG3 went in the first round.
Goff.
Marcus Mariota was the number 2 overall. Goff was a 1-1. Patrick Mahomes was taken in the first round.
Yeah, the Tech guys were the ones you were probably favored against, being when you took on the air raid and Goff, and then you took on Mahomes. And then
Mahomes.
those were about the only guys that you would expect.
Mahomes
to
is the
maybe
only
win.
one of those quarterbacks
have a
Texas has a winning record
Yeah,
against, and
right.
one of those technically doesn't even count because Quandre Diggs knocked him out of the 2014
No,
game
that
pretty
counts.
early.
Trust me. Ask
Yes.
If
Alabama.
USC can claim an
knocking out-
undefeated record against Texas, you count that win over Patrick Mahomes.
You knocking out quarterback. Oh, that counts, man. That counts.
Oh, and just follow
Forward on my
Quandre on
ass.
Twitter. He still lets you know that it counted.
But see, the reason that's mind blowing to me is, I mean, these quarterbacks, and I understand like Texas had their defensive issues then, but a couple of times Texas had good defenses in those years. Only a couple. 2011 and 2014. Remember the first year
The
from
Whedons, the Tannehills.
Yeah. So I mean that record is, to me, it's a little surprising. I didn't expect it to be that bad when we started doing the research, and Jeff and I was crunching the numbers. I didn't expect it to be that bad. I was surprised to see it was that bad, but I shouldn't have been, considering the struggles Texas has had defensively in the last 7 years.
Here's and I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's not get sidetracked on the USC conversation. But here's what gives me hope that Texas can compete in this game. And we were just going through the numbers, and I just found some of this fascinating. If you look at Texas under Charlie Strong, they were 5-10 against ranked teams. But look closer at those 5 wins. And even some of those 10 losses, those games were some of the best football Texas played under Charlie Strong.
Good point.
And let me just run down the list here, okay? His first year, 2014, a loss to UCLA that you probably should have won. UCLA was number 12. The games that were out of hand that year, Baylor at home, K-State on the road was a shutout loss, and then you lose to TCU. But you beat West Virginia, who was ranked, and you played well enough to beat Oklahoma that year.
I remember that.
So those games, Texas played really well. Go to 2015.
Yeah.
The games that were out of hand, the opener against Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And the last time, now Texas going on the road to face a top 5 team, the last time Texas went on the road to face a top 5 team was 2015 against TCU. That was the 50-7 game where TCU led 30-0 at the end of the first quarter. Yeah. Rod, you just had a twitch.
I did.
There.
I just had a shiver.
It just kind of
No,
summed
it really
up.
was. It was like, I had a flashback.
But Texas should have beaten Oklahoma State that year. That was the officiating snafu and the punt thing at the end and poor clock management. They beat Oklahoma, and that was coming off the TCU game, so they were able to kind of galvanize, circle the wagons, and played. It was 2 totally different teams from one week to the
Baker
next.
Mayfield, which was crazy.
Yeah. And then they go beat Baylor, which was basically their bowl game. They had nothing left to play for. That was the bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
And Baylor ran out of quarterbacks, but Texas still found a way to win the game.
Yeah.
And then you go to last year, they had all offseason to get ready for Notre Dame, and they come out of the gates and win that one. Lose to Oklahoma in a game that was a 5-point game. And at the time, Baylor was ranked. Baylor didn't finish as a top 10 team, but Baylor was ranked 8th in the country when they came to also play Texas. Texas had their backs against the wall, played well enough to beat West Virginia, and you ended up losing that game. So when you look at it, these players know how to get up for a big game.
Yeah.
So that shouldn't be a problem this week.
That's a good point.
You combine that with Tom Herman being 6-0 against AP ranked teams when he was at Houston, and being able to get guys up, get guys ready to rise to the occasion.
He's also great as an underdog.
Yeah, Rod, I think Texas is going to go out and play really well. I think they're going to compete, and it's not going to surprise me if this is a single-digit outcome by the end of the game.
It's odd you bring it up, too, when you think about the Charlie era where, because we knew that we had these top 5 classes have talent, but then you don't read expectations. Now, you have the talent to win some of these big games, but then each year you have a loss that you're like, what? We lost to Kansas. We lost to Iowa State. And oddly, it's exactly how Tom Herman's career at Houston went. You look and he's opened up and beat all these times. But then what the hell happened? Was it injuries?
Navy and
a lot of that was injuries.
So,
okay,
but point being that you see that this situation, you have the talent, you know that the coaches have situations to win it. Then it's more about when you hit that next level of consistency, because what's that erratic program? Would you want to be one of the Aggies or the Tech program that can beat anybody on any given day, but you don't know what the hell's showing up? Is that where Texas football has fallen to at that level, or is it just that temporary part of youth and inexperience when you have the potential? It's just sort of like what Coach Royal said about potential. That means you ain't worth a damn right now if I'm talking about potential.
It's so crazy. We just talked about the baseline for Sam Ehlinger and how young players are so inconsistent, like a roller coaster. This team is exactly the same way.
It fits perfect,
You know what I mean?
It makes sense. We lose to Maryland. It wouldn't surprise me if Texas beats in these next 5 games one of these top 2. You have actually 3 top 10 teams now in 5 games coming up. So you're probably going to lose one. You're probably going to be really impressive. It's just, what about the consistency? Can you consistently perform on a week-to-week basis?
I think they're going to beat one of these top 10 teams, whether it's SC or Oklahoma State or Oklahoma. They're getting one of these.
Really?
Yeah.
Man,
I'm not saying they're getting all 3.
You gonna get one.
I'm not saying they're getting 2. I'm saying one of the 3.
Which one's more likely? Or most likely, I should say.
I think Oklahoma State.
I think Oklahoma maybe most likely.
Those two.
It's something about that game. It's a rivalry game.
Totally.
Oklahoma State.
When Oklahoma won, that was the first thing I said to my brother. I was like, we were driving home, and it was like, oh, well, you know what happens when Oklahoma wins a game to start the year? Texas beats them in the road.
So I know Tom Herman. There's some familiarity there, and it's something about that game. It's weird. Crazy things happen. Charlie Strong.
That was my justification for Oklahoma State, because that's just a weird series and weird stuff happens.
Weird things happen in Oklahoma State too.
And then familiarity. This is some big familiarity. I mean, Sam Darnold grew up in the same neighborhood that Tom Herman's grandma's from, and he's recruited him and known him since he was 15 years old. So there's some tendencies now. Who knows how much he recruited? But when he was at Ohio State, he was recruiting Darnold, and it's from the high school right down the road from where he lived there in California. So Who knows how much of Darnold's tendencies he knows? He probably won't let us know, but that's something worth noting if you throw money
That's
down.
a great point,
So, Rod,
actually. I like that.
Offensively for Texas, regardless of which quarterback plays,
Run the ball.
I think Texas is going to need number one.
Shorten the
Get creative. Get creative with your guys who can change the game. Get creative with your difference makers. And the two guys that are X factor players for me in this game, one is Gerard Hurd. The other is Lil Jordan Humphrey, because I look at him. He didn't have any touches against San Jose State.
I know. I don't get it, man.
Which
Upsets me.
Which makes me hopeful. I hope that this is the case.
Oh, they're saving him.
You're saving whatever your Lil Jordan Humphrey package is. You're saving that for USC.
You know,
I
Warren's
want
just going to run all over him.
No, I want Lil Jordan Humphrey, and I don't know if I told you guys this, but I've said it before. I said it on the show the other day. I want him to become like their Aaron Hernandez, not off the field, but on the field.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, right, exactly. Remember how they used to use Aaron Hernandez, though? Because he was an undersized tight end. He's kind of a weird athlete, a hybrid athlete.
He's really like
tight
a flex
end.
tight end.
Yeah, so they basically use him as a
That
flex
Leetau
tight end.
guy looks like
They would split him out. They'd use him as a traditional tight end, but sometimes he's lined up in the backfield as a running back.
Right.
They would just like this line up as a regular running back or a fullback or an H-back. And Lil Jordan Humphrey has a skill set. We can do almost all of those. And he's big enough to do almost all those things.
I think that's why number one.
Right?
I think that's why they put him in the slot. Number two, we really haven't seen the slot position be as dynamic as it's been in Tom Herman's offense. I've got to think, Rod, they're saving that for USC.
I hope so, because I'm with you. Lil Jordan Humphrey could be a matchup nightmare.
Yeah.
Because you can move him around and shift him. Whatever defense it is, say they got too many defensive backs in. All right, let's put him in the backfield, go run 20 personnel, and let him be an H-back and block for us.
Right.
You know what I mean? They want to run 40 personnel out there. All right, put him out there and split him
These
wide.
are built in the way we talked about Malik in the defense, how he's the ultimate chess piece for an offense. Yeah, you're right. If
line
you
him
can
up in
play
the-
all positions.
You line him up in the backfield, they're going to put a linebacker on him. Hell, run him on a route out of the backfield. So I agree with you. I think Lil Jordan Humphrey, and you said it, Gerard Hurd. That should be packaged where Gerard Hurd is in the backfield with Sam Ellinger or Shane Boucher.
We saw that once last week.
You know what I mean? And then I want to see him motion out, and I would honestly, I'd like to see him run a route out of the backfield. Like I don't think anything's crazy about that. Hell, and the double pass should be with Gerard Hurd.
And I love all these ideas right now, because when does Texas end up in a situation like this where you're taking on USC, have a chance to win, and nothing matters? You already lost your first game at the beginning of the year. Nobody's expecting balls to the wall, take
exactly
every
what we're
risk,
talking about with this
throw
deal against
blitz.
ranked teams. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, right now, why not throw everything that you got at them early? See if you can get a score. And it turns into 2013 Texas OU, where you get a pick six, and then Deshae Johnson brings back the punt, and somehow you're up. You know, and you're up by 14 points early. Just if you can get that tide to swing early, it's worth the risk in the first quarter. Maybe give up a touchdown if you do get burnt on a blitz. But if you get home or force an interception, it can change the whole tempo of the game.
No doubt.
Because if you're playing on their slow schedule, it's like any other year going forward with Herman, these games in the non-conference games going to mean a lot. It can really affect your season. Well, you've already lost in that right now. The only thing you can do, you already expected to lose by 17 points. Take the risk and maybe come out of it with a victory or a close game.
You go back to that 2015 game against OU, which is, I think, the last time we looked at a Texas game and thought, man, I don't see how they're going to win this game.
I don't know. They were like 20-something point underdogs, right?
I think it was 19
It was
or
back
something.
to
It was
back.
historic,
Because in
I think.
2013, Texas was the biggest underdog to win in
Oh,
that
maybe
series,
that's the
and
I'm
then
thinking
they
about.
did it again in 15.
Yeah, I'm
They
thinking about
I'm
backed
thinking
it
about
back.
15. You think about 15. You think about that defensive game. It was the best game Charlie Strong's staff ever had collectively.
Yes, agreed.
And but think about defensively, and this is why I can't pick Texas to win, because what was the X factor on defense that day? You had a healthy Hassan Ridgeway, which you didn't have for very many games during that 2015 season, but you had him healthy for that OU game.
He was a beast.
And you were able to dial up your blitzes because you had a guy that offensive line had to account for.
They have to double team him.
Would double team him every play. And I don't think Texas has that guy. So what I'm getting at is, and you had an offensive game plan where Jay Norvell and Jeff Traylor really sat down like, look, we're probably throwing it 3 times this week. If we got to run it 70 times, we're going to bleed the clock.
They did.
We got Deontay Foreman
Yeah.
and Jay Gray, and we're gonna pound the rock with Gerard Hurd. We're just going to pound it all day long and bleed the clock and move the sticks. And if it's end every drive in a kick, make sure every drive ends in a kick, whether it's a punt, whether it's an extra point or a field goal, in every drive in a kick. That's the goal this week.
Yeah.
It's obviously going to be different this time around, but that's the kind of game Tom Herman's staff is going to have to coach,
Simplify
and
it.
call,
Yeah.
and win. It's got to be, what do we do really, really well? That's what we got to do. If we're going to – and this is what frustrates me when teams lose close games, because you don't see them do this, and I felt like this is when Charlie's teams were at their best. What do we do well? If we're going to go out swinging, let's go out swinging with our best punch we got.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and that allows you to work confidently. Players, I should say,
Yeah.
to work confidently. Because usually when they do that, they simplify things. Like, all right, man, what we do is we do this well. Now, I'm on offense. I'm a little bit more encouraged about finding things they do well and identifying playmakers on defense. And I agree with you too. You want to have kind of the same mentality. Stick to what you do really well. I'm wondering. I don't know what they do well on defense yet. Even though the San Jose State game was great, I don't know what your bread and butter against. Maybe there's nothing you can do against a Sam Darnold anyway.
Maybe not.
A number,
so maybe you
pick.
just got to go exotics the whole game. And
Maybe
just
exactly.
Hope.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe you just throw everything, the kitchen sink at them.
Because I'm with you. Like, I go back to, we've talked a lot of game plans and games you played, Rod, and games we've watched, and we've talked about decisions. I go back to the 2001 OU game when, after that first drive, Bull Reese said, that game plan, screw it.
Scratched it.
Zero coverage all the way across.
We had all this exotic stuff. We was going to play some cover 4 and cover 2 and
like
cloud
Texas,
coverages and all this other stuff. Literally, after the first drive, scrap the entire damn game plan. Yeah, guys, we're just going to go play man-to-man. Oh, well, hell, then. You should have said that anyway. We wasted all that time in practice. That's going to be working on the technique.
But that's because you guys had the horses to
go
play
man-to-man. Yeah, and because he trusted that. In the end, he was like, man, I don't trust all that crap I did. Let's just have these guys play man-to-man. So I do wonder what the Texas defense, what do they trust that they do really well, that they can hang their hat on?
And
I don't know
that's
if you have
worrisome.
anything
No,
right
there
now.
aren't, because you don't get to the pass rush. You don't play defense.
But maybe to hang your hat on, maybe it's because we have nothing. Yeah. Maybe it's liberating. Maybe there's just freedom in. We got nothing to lose.
It's like, no, it's a show about
we don't do a
nothing.
damn thing well. We're just gonna and there's almost this kind of ipso facto result of that because they don't know what you do well.
Yeah.
Like when they build a game plan now, they kind of are going to be a little bit hesitant on, okay, so who are we attacking? We're going to attack these corners. If you know they're going to attack your corners, then why don't you game plan for that? Like if I was on defense, Orlando, I would put myself in USC shoes and say, like, how is USC going to attack? Why would I attack my defense? I would throw in them damn corners. I would test them corners all day, every day. I'd put a lot of misdirection in the backfield, let my linebackers cover in space. So I think that's the way you approach it if you're Orlando and you don't really have anything to dictate the tempo. Like it's not he can go to dictate the tempo.
Right.
What he needs to do is give a schematic advantage based on the counter punch. He needs to anticipate that counter punch.
Well, I stayed up late and watched some Pac-12 After Dark on Saturday.
Oh,
U of H was
man, that's how
playing.
you know it's football. It's like football porn. You just watch football.
I watched. I was flipping back and forth
Arizona?
between U of H, Arizona, and Boise and Wazoo.
Oh
And
yeah, I saw some of that Boise.
I watched that U of H Arizona game, and you realize, not to say that Todd Orlando's not a bad defensive coordinator, because he's not, but you realize how much better it is to game plan, how much easier it is to game plan when you got a guy like Ed Oliver that knows.
Makes life so much easier.
Oh my God!
It's a numbers game originally. When Ed Oliver is in the middle of that defense, arguably the best young D tackle in the country, or at least he's one of the top 2 or 3, you got to double team him every play. So the offense automatically starts at a numbers disadvantage. They take the quarterback out, especially if the quarterback's not a dual threat quarterback. You can take him out of it and take 2 of their other guys out. So now these guys are essentially playing 8 on 10 or 8 on 11. And that's where you start with a guy like Ed Oliver. He demands a double team. You can switch it up on the other side. The same way when you have a really dynamic running back or a running game, you got to put 8 guys in the box and get man-to-man on the outside. Numbers game. Or I got a double team one of your wide receivers.
Dynamic run through at quarterback.
Yeah.
Where you're at a number.
Those guys, they end up basically accounting for more than one man. They account for 2 men because they're that dominant of a presence, and that's when you start building a game plan off of that. You're right. Ed Oliver, hell, man, you can build a game plan off that guy all day, every day.
All right, guys, what do you say we get to some picks?
Picks?
Sounds like a plan.
Oh, we have the rankings of these picks?
Yes. Let me get back to our records.
Yeah.
So after last week, Rod B, you actually won. You went 4-1 last week. I went 3-2, and Jeff also went 3-2. So to catch us up, Jeff is 2 games back right now. Rod and I both.
Okay, I don't have to gamble.
No, 3 games back. Sorry, my
Maybe
math
I
is
gotta
off.
gamble a little
Yeah,
bit.
7-3. Rod and I both are 7-3, and Jeff, you gotta bring it up from the rear. But
He's got to go basically opposite of us.
I'm 5-5 right now. I'm 500.
Yes, sir.
You're batting 500. That'll definitely
3
get you
games
all
back.
Wow,
You are 4-6. You're 1 game under 500. 3 games back of us.
4 and
but
6?
Yeah, you were 1-4 in week 1, and then you were 3-2 in week 2. But
That was our record. My junior year at Florence High School. We were 4 and 6.
4-6.
Lost our last 3. Missed the
So
playoffs.
you aren't 5-7 guy. There you go. All right. Well, first game to choose from going to be Clemson versus Louisville. Lamar Jackson. What you got?
Oh, that's a good one.
This is going to be at Louisville.
Lamar Jackson's baller right now, too, but he's playing scrubs.
You know what? Gosh, I think I'm going to take Clemson because I trust Clemson's defense against Lamar Jackson. I'm leaning towards Clemson. I might change that one, but I'm leaning Clemson right now.
Man, I want to pick Lamar Jackson. I want to pick him and watch him just go crazy and go wild. I think he'll have a good game, but I'm going with Jeff on this. I think Clemson's defense will be they'll be competent enough to at least be able to contain him. You can't stop him,
right?
But you can contain him and not let him go crazy. He'll have a couple of key turnovers, and that'll give the game to Clemson.
Yeah, I was back and forth on this one. I still really can't decide either. Is like after watching what Kelly Bryant was able to do, that kid, he's been pretty impressive too. So
I think Clemson's a little more battle tested, having just played Auburn too. So
there you go.
I think they've got a really good idea.
And they got a good quarterback. What's the quarterback?
Kelly Bryant.
Kelly Bryant. Yeah.
What you just said there, though, is the reason why I'm going to go against them, because they just had a really hardcore game against Auburn. Those things really match up when you have to go on the road the very next week and take on a good team. So I'm going to take Louisville's a 3-point underdog, but I will go with the underdog there.
Nice.
Okay. Now going on, Texas Tech versus Arizona State. Who's you got?
This is in Lubbock, right?
Tough.
Yes.
Ooh.
Tech hasn't really played anybody. I know they haven't played anybody yet. But Arizona State just lost to San Diego State. They know Todd Graham's on the hot seat. It's in Lubbock. Which has me leaning.
What time of day I wonder?
It's a night game, I believe.
Is it really?
I'm taking Tech.
Yeah. I think I'll take Tech. Yeah, something about Tech at night. They're just weird, man. They're hard to play at night. It's like the freaks come out at night around there.
I agree totally. I'll take Tech as well. And then next one going to be Old Man Snyder taking on Vanderbilt. Who you got?
Oh, man. Old Man Snyder. All day, every day.
Yeah.
Purple Kryptonite.
Yeah, I will take it. So we're all on Tech. We're all on K-State. That makes sense. And then last one before we get to Texas, going to be Ole Miss versus Cal.
Oh, this is a good one, Matt.
Yeah, this is a good one. Okay.
Where is this game, Matt?
It's going to be in Cal. West Coast.
Man. Oh, I'm taking – Cal is just not – Cal's defense, I know it's just terrible. I want to say Ole Miss has got so much going on that
they're so defunct too, but they have some good athletes.
They have good athletes. At least there's some of them are still left over from that recruiting stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Ole Miss.
Man, I want to go Cal, but I can't pick against – I can't pick Cal against an SEC team.
I'm just going with Ole Miss because the better
Basically.
athletes. The time zone thing. What time is that game, Matt?
I believe it's a night game too.
It's a big
give me a start time for that if you can.
Late night. It's down at the bottom of the list. I'm scrolling down so we can
bet
get there.
it's late. West Coast games.
Yeah, it's 9:30 our time.
Oh yeah, that's bad for Ole Miss. That's gonna be late. Body clocks all off. Weird, freaky. I'm still taking Ole Miss though. I don't know. I'm still taking Ole Miss.
Yep,
Cal.
I'm taking Ole Miss too.
You know what? Just because I'm wondering if this is the game that I gamble on to try to make up a game.
It didn't work for you last week. You would be one game closer, but then you jumped off the USC train and took Stanford.
True.
We told you it was a bad idea and that this strategy, it's very short term. You should go long term with who you believe in. Don't try to make up a game.
Now y'all
It's
know
a
why I don't
marathon, not a
gamble.
sprint, man. These things are marathons, not sprints. You can't panic with. It's like panicking if you're the Houston Texans right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's no need to panic. Still got 15 games left.
Yeah.
Let me see here with Cal. Hold on. Let me look at Cal's schedule. Give me just a second.
I love that Jeff is like genuinely doing research.
Yeah, he can.
Like, that's how you know Jeff is like he's got a lot of pride in his face. He's genuinely
Which makes
doing
it even
research.
more comedic.
Okay, Cal did beat North Carolina.
Yep.
Oh, did they? I didn't see that.
You know what? I'll go with Cal.
All right. Flipping it
That
over.
body clock issue, man.
It is real.
Nervous.
It's real.
Yeah.
No, it's real. It
makes
is.
me nervous
It's
about
just
Ole
something
Miss.
strange. Yeah, like usually your body's used to shutting it down at a certain time, and it's halftime. Like, you got to go back out there like, man, my body feels like sluggish. Like, yeah, I used to be like passing out at this time. You know what I mean?
Man.
Exactly.
Give me Cal.
All righty, man. And then we're on to Texas and USC.
All right. I don't think Texas wins this game. Obviously, I think if the Maryland game did anything, I think it kind of brought everybody's expectations down. Because had Texas beaten Maryland, I think we'd all probably pick Texas or pick this a really close game.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah.
I do think this game is it's got a really good chance to be closer than what I'm gonna predict. Here's the other thing that worries me about this game, Rod. In a close game, I worry about Texas in the field goal kicking situation because you can't count on that at all right now.
That's a great point.
So if it is a close game, that's why I can't. I mean, everything that would lead me to say, okay, check all these boxes. Can Texas win? I just don't see it. I'll take USC to win like a 48-35 kind of game because I think Texas is going to put points on the board.
Really?
I think they'll be able to run on USC.
Interesting.
And I think Texas now understands that that's going to be their calling card this year is running the football. So I think barring, knock on wood, some kind of injury to Chris Warren or something like that, or something goes haywire, unexpected, I think it's a 48-35 kind of game.
48-35. Okay, I will go. Man, I'm gonna go 38 to 23. 38-23.
Nice. I'm thinking along the same lines because I watched some of that Western Michigan game, and they were even able to get like 5.5 yards a carry against them. Not to mention last week it was like 10 per carry for Stanford. So Warren, if he can keep on running, but it's all then about game script. Can Texas play in a game in which you feed the ball Warren 20 times, or are they trying to throw the ball to catch up? If they're throwing to catch up, it could snowball and get blown out by 40.
Right.
But if the first quarter goes how we hope it to, and Texas keeps it close, I think it can be lower scoring than expected. So I think it should be right in between and maybe get separation at the end. USC does. Texas loses 42-27.
Rod, here's the other thing that worries me with Texas. Scoring on explosive plays. Texas had 14 explosives against San Jose State, only scored on one of them.
Man, so wasn't that the case also against Maryland?
Yes.
So Maryland was 13 so it's been 27 explosive plays.
Only scored on 2 of them.
That's a hell of a stat.
Yeah,
that is
I think
great
that
stat.
actually is only good for Texas. That's a stat that's going to regress to the mean.
Yeah,
and that means you're
that
going
is
to get
so
more
strange.
touchdowns off of those burst plays. You aren't going to get tackled at the 10 or 5 or whatever is happening.
Wow.
So that,
man, that worries me because against USC, those are your money plays.
That's where
if you catch USC slipping, you better cash in.
Yes.
You can't afford to catch them slipping and just only get a field goal out of it like that.
Especially considering the one time
even
this year where we've had to see this staff put something together in the red zone and around the goal line.
And you're right, and that's how they're going to catch USC. It's going to be like every night a double pass. They're going to have something up their sleeve for USC, and it's going to lead to an explosive play probably, or that's going to be their hope. They got to cash in on it.
Right.
Gotcha.
All right, guys, I will be out at the Coliseum on Saturday.
Woo!
Nice.
I'll let you guys know
That's
how
going to be
LA
awesome,
is.
man.
This will be my first trip to L.A., actually.
Oh, for real?
Really?
Yeah.
How's that possible?
Never been to Los
Are you
Angeles.
going to be flying back soon, or are you going to stay the night?
What'd you do in 2009 for the national title game? You didn't go to
No,
LA
I was
then?
here.
You was here?
I was covering the Army Bowl in San Antonio. It was that
Oh,
week, so I was
man.
on the recruiting beat, Rod B.
Oh, that's right. Oh, now you big
Oh,
time.
that's
Now
big
you're
time
going to go out
week
there.
back
Now you're gonna go out to LA.
If you got time on
company
like
down.
Sunday, drive to Santa Barbara. That's a prettiest drive and
love
prettiest
it.
place
I've
in the world.
got a few hours like Sunday morning.
Don't be telling your wife how nice it is because she's going to be mad and jealous. So,
Trust me, I learned that after the
yeah,
cow
don't
trip.
be talking about how great it is.
I learned that
Baby,
after the cow trip.
Yeah.
Like, we got to go back to San
Exactly.
Francisco. The Bay Area was
Shut
awesome.
up. Shut you. You'll get in an argument.
The best view of the city is you go to Cal on the ninth floor of the press box. And you look out and you're looking over San Francisco Bay.
Yeah, wifey don't want to hear that
giving
right
you that
now.
look like I hate you.
Yeah, I hate you and your job. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll be at there. Rod, what are you doing on Saturday?
I think I'll do some work with the Horn, obviously, pre-game and post-game stuff. I think they do theirs at pre-game at Pluckers for road
Pregame
games.
will be Pluckers, yes.
Yeah, and then the post-game, they will do it from the studio. So I'll be doing some stuff with the Horn, hanging out.
Matt, what do you got on tap?
Oh, got a friend's birthday, so going to be celebrating. This couple recently had a kid, so don't get to party and watch much football with them very often. So going to be really good to get to go and kick it with some old friends.
Travis, what do you got this weekend?
Travis.
I'll be in Seattle.
Oh, on the West
Seattle,
Coast.
West Coast in it.
Northwest.
Yeah, go
That's
check
another-
out those pot shops up there.
It's a
Really
beaut.
nice. Oh, you're like,
That's where
he
Ezekiel
said-
Elliott went.
I
That's
was gonna
when
talk
You don't have to buy anything, guys. It's like just for tourist stuff.
No,
Touristy
here,
stuff.
real quick.
You know?
I'll end the show on this. You know, my wife and I have friends that one of her best friends growing up lives in Seattle. We went and saw them when we were up there. This summer. And they're talking about how, everybody just goes gets edibles. It's just something you do.
Yes.
Like,
Oh yeah. Now it's just something you do.
Huh.
They just take it to go to sleep at night, like relaxer.
I go down to the corner store, get me a tea. You go down to the corner store, get you some edibles.
Oh, it's a
different
beautiful
folks out
thing.
there.
It's a beautiful thing.
Anyway, to each their own. Matt, thanks for everything, man.
Oh, you are more than welcome.
Rod B, appreciate the time and the knowledge.
Anytime, brother.
For
Anytime.
Matt, for Rod, for Travis, the best damn videographer in the podcast game. For everybody at 1049 The Horn, which can't get us on 1049thehorn.com in terms of their SoundCloud page, but you can go to our SoundCloud page, the Longhorn Blitz SoundCloud page. That's where you can find us. And now, thanks to Matt, You get us on iTunes and any kind of podcast app, too.
Yep, just type in Longhorn Blitz.
For the Horn family, for the Horns 24/7 family, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for downloading and listening, and we will catch you again on the next episode.
You've been listening to Longhorn Blitz with horns247.com. Remember, for the latest Longhorn news 24/7, visit horns247.com.